Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. I'm your host, Olivia Akin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We give you real life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top notch guests. Today, we are speaking with actor George Stults. George first made his mark as Kevin Kinkirk on the long running series Seventh Heaven, where he brought heart, strength, and sincerity to a role that helped define a generation of television. But his career has continued to evolve, spanning everything from guest appearances on Friends and Will and Grace to starring roles in romantic holiday favorites like The Nanny Express and I'm Not Ready for Christmas, to action packed films like What Lies Above. With a mix of natural charisma and grounded presence, George has built a career rooted in authenticity, consistency, and connection, both on and off screen. Today, we're diving into the path behind the spotlight, the mindset that keeps him moving forward, and the stories that have shaped his journey along the way. Hello, George. It's fantastic having you on the show.
Ken, thank you so much for having me.
To start off the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to George Stults?
Yeah, I believe success to me is being able to do what you love and surrounding yourself with good people and being able to continue to do that over a long period of time.
And I love that. And I want to touch upon part of what I said in the intro and then how this plays out to also what you said. It's about doing what you love and surround yourself with good people so that you can do it long term. Well, one of the things I mentioned in your intro is your authenticity, consistency, and connection. And so I want to highlight that because especially when you have celebrities on a podcast like this, you're used to connecting, maybe connecting with their team, never talking again, role of the game, right? George and I have built a friendship that now I over time were very surprising, where I'm like, something happens, I'm like, oh, I gotta tell George. Oh, like this is going on. So when we bring up the authenticity and connection for you, how do you make sure that's in all areas and you're building connections with individuals that you might have not even seen face to face yet?
I don't know. I guess I'm probably mentally ill. No, I was fortunate. My brother and I are fortunate to have two loving, caring parents that I think taught us good values and whatnot. But I'm honestly just being myself, and I think genetically I got passed along more of my dad's like he's happy no matter what all the time and loves to laugh, and I kind of got that a lot. And a lot of people that I'm close with say that for whatever reason I have an ability to make people feel uncomfortable. But also, don't get me wrong, if I want you to feel uncomfortable, I can certainly do that, especially if I get to know you. But I would never do that to you, Olivia, of course.
Well, thank you. And you have it. And I think one of the amazing things with building relationships in any like realm, whether it's friendships, spouses, business relationships, is being able to really show up who you are and be honest and have those honest conversations. There's times we've, talking and we're talking about what's going on in life, and we're talking about work stuff, and we're talking about all these different areas. And you also, when you build that, you then also get to challenge each other and go, okay, well, why are you doing it that way? Or, call someone out on something. And I think that is the identifier, or one of them, of a successful friendship and a successful connection is not only can we sit here and go, look what I did today, or look at this really unique experience, but go like, is that making you uncomfortable, and why is it making you uncomfortable? Because a lot of times, especially at least I've experienced, when you get uncomfortable, you don't want to admit it. There's a level of like not wanting to say,
Of
like,
course.
this isn't nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up because you're the one who made me deal with my uncomfortableness. And even though I wanted this to be my very first podcast, Olivia Atkin, you called me out and talked me into doing the Seventh Heaven podcast. And I'm now officially an adult at 50 years old. So I can say thank you, Olivia, because I did have fun. And you know what I mean. You talked me into it, and I'm glad I did it now. So thank you.
Well, that gives me a great smile and honor because, it's one of those things where there's times we really don't want to do something, but it's like I just said, looking at the reasoning behind that and also going, what could the reward be, not just for listeners but personally. And I want to move on a little bit because there's so much we could talk about, let's be honest. Here in so many different directions. But one thing that you did not share with me that I found out while I was doing research for this podcast, and then I reached out and I was like, George, we got some things to talk about, is that you were on a wrestling scholarship and you even considered the Navy, and then acting kind of fell into your direction. What do you think you saw in that opportunity or kind of stuck with you? And when did you realize you had something to say through acting and that acting was the path you were going to go down?
Well, if I'm completely honest, talking to a wrestling manager herself, wrestling team manager. Uh, by the way, I loved it when you told me that. So I wrestled my entire life, and I actually thought I was, decent athlete in high school, and I took third in state in Colorado my senior year at 135 pounds. And my mom, being an educator her entire life, basically begged my brother and I and promised, and we had to promise her that we'd go to college and get an education. So I went to college because I thought I could wrestle and get an education. So I officially didn't have a scholarship. I walked onto the team and worked my booty off. And I loved it. I was in the best shape of my life. Still to this day, I have tons of friends who I wrestled with in high school and college. And my senior year in college, after I was done wrestling, I transferred to my brother's school, and he's a year younger, and we happened to be able to graduate at the same time because all my credits transferred. Anyway, he was overseas playing football in Austria, and I went to go visit a friend in Hollywood that we grew up with who worked for a theatrical agency during the day as an assistant, and at night worked at this awesome bar that we loved. And so I went to go visit her during the day because she was sick of us taking advantage of her going to the bar at night, my senior year in college. And so we went and had a nice time, nice lunch or whatever. And a woman approached me and asked me if I was in the entertainment industry. And I was like, I was so uncomfortable. And I was still shy and timid George back then. It was nothing like I am right now. And but I was still polite to her. I was like, no, 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 no. She handed me her business card, and I took it back to school. And when my brother got back in town, I told him the story, and he always wanted to be an actor, and he acted from elementary school all the way through college. And but he was didn't think he was ever going to be in the industry. It was the last thing I ever thought I was going to do. Because again, I there's no way I could be having this conversation with a stranger back then. I was so shy, wussy boy. Anyway, so my brother basically forced me to call this woman and set up a meeting and to get him involved somehow because he wanted it so bad. Even though he's my younger brother, he just pushed me to do it. I was like, okay, fine. So I called her, and that's how I got our first meeting with a theatrical agency in Hollywood. And I was horrified. I mean, I can't imagine what I sounded like on the phone. I had no right of getting into this industry at all. But to this day, I'm still very grateful because I've learned so much, had so much fun, built so many awesome relationships. But it truly is my brother's fault that I got into this industry. And he has the personality that fit in great right away. He's very confident, very outgoing, and loved to act. I did not want to do it. He talked me into doing high school musicals and 2 years in a row. And I would always get the tiny little part just because our school was small. And they're like, all right, we'll throw George in. George, just keep it down over there. And my brother was the lead, but I always had fun. Anyway, cut to all of a sudden, this woman wants to represent me because of my so-called pretty boy looks at the time. And thinking that it would be fairly easy to get me on, like a daytime soap. Because back then I did screen tested a bunch for it because of my so-called pretty boy looks, but I had no right speaking on camera, Olivia, not even a little bit. But got into acting class, stuck with it nonstop. Sometimes I was in 3 different acting classes, and it helped me come out of my shell and from being a shy, timid, wussy boy to the old, obnoxious man I am today.
Well, here's a question I have based on that story you just told. What was it like? Was there any point in time growing up, or even then during that period of time, where you felt like you had to compete for your brother or do things for your because your brother wanted you to do it, or vice versa?
Well, my parents say that since I was the older brother, they think that I always looked after my little brother, even though everyone thinks he's the older brother because he's bigger and more confident and likes to yap more than I do, believe it or not. But they said I was always looking after him and making sure he was good and never worrying about myself. And I think I can remember from entering this industry, I was always thinking, I don't ever have to worry about myself working. I just got to make sure he keeps working. And I don't know why was like that. I think it was just genetics or whatever, because he doesn't need help working in the industry. He always wanted to do it and loved it from day one. I was waiting to get my diploma so I could go into the Navy as an officer. I wanted to go through buds to try and become a Navy SEAL. That's how ridiculous it is that I actually became an actor in this crazy industry that we're in. But I let him
So
talk me into putting that off and pursuing the entertainment industry. And we were just so lucky because we were 21 and 22. And from the beginning, people were telling us that we were too old. And we didn't understand why they were saying that then. But I don't know if the general public or the masses are aware of this, but I didn't even know what nepotism was, but there's so many people in this industry that are born and raised in the industry. It's like a factory. And so it's so difficult if you don't have those kind of opportunities that they do to fall. And we just lucked out and fell into it. We were very fortunate.
I want to step into the time of Seventh Heaven and being there and filming, and even potentially, like you just said, kind of having this different insight into the industry, not understanding potentially, and you feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, the industry as much as peers or people in the space. You're also working with at the time looking, and again, I know there is a difference between age off screen and age people play on sets, but I'm assuming at least some child actors who had been shaped different, like had different experiences at the time. For you, do you look back and think it's a blessing, or did it hurt you? And I mean, your brother played on Seventh Heaven as well, that you both went and had a very different path into acting and getting that kind of role on such a series that's impacted so many people and their families.
Yeah, absolutely. He auditioned for Seventh Heaven and got on it right away. They brought him on to be Jessica Biel's love interest. And, you watch the show, all of the lead actors had numerous love interests. And, and then because we had the same theatrical agent, and sometimes a lot of people that didn't know us thought we were twins. So they try and package us as, audition to be twins or brothers or whatever. But he got on it and I hadn't auditioned for it yet. And then shortly afterwards, I got an audition for it, but it was to play a high school senior when I was 22. No, I was probably like 24, 25 years old then. To play an audition to play a high school senior who peer pressures David Gallagher's character was Simon on Seventh Heaven to peer pressure him into drinking alcohol on an episode of Seventh Heaven. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, there's no way I can pull this off. But I didn't realize, that there's a lot of people who play way older or are way older and play way younger, or vice versa. So everyone talked to me, and was just like, just go audition for it. I was like, yeah, I might as well, because I won't even have to act. That's easy. I'm great at peer pressuring people. And so I just happened to audition for it. And then they didn't want me for that part, but they brought me back for another audition. And that's when I believe the creator, Brenda Hampton, creator of Seventh Heaven, found out that Jeff and I were brothers. And she thought it would be cute to bring real life brothers on the show to play Beverly and Jessica's characters' love interests. And I think if I remember correctly, Jessica Biel was kind of fading out of Seventh Heaven to go do other stuff. And they were looking for a long-term boyfriend for Beverly Mitchell. And that's how Kevin Kinkirk became a series regular on the show. And I just lucked out because that was the best freaking, excuse my language, job ever. It was so much fun. And like I said previously, I had no right becoming I was lucky to be a guest star and then becoming a series regular. Olivia, I was so-called green. You've heard that before, right? Like very little experience. So I would go with all the kids. The cast of Seventh Heaven was huge, tons of kids. I would go with the kids to the kids' acting coach trailer every day and practice my lines and learn how to act like every single day the first couple of years I was on the show. And I didn't mind it because I knew I needed it and it helped me get better and better each day.
Well, and one thing you just demonstrated in that is no matter your age or who you might be kind of clumped with, as I might say, always ask for help and always ask for guidance because there's no shame in it and it could only make you better. And I love that you shared that story because it just demonstrates like, hey, I'm here too. I know where I stand, and being realistic with yourself and going, hey, I want that extra support. I want to get this. Now, I want to move on, but before we do, I want to touch upon one other thing in Seventh Heaven. And before I bring it up, I'm just going to say George already told me I could bring this up. He was the one who's brought it up multiple times to be like, hey, this is comfortable. So if you want to talk about it, I'm going to give my honest feedback. So I want to give that caveat. This is me not throwing any shade or trying to throw George off. But, and like, to be honest, I have a friendship with George now. I call him a good friend, and like, I really can't. There's nothing I could say to this, and that's gonna throw him off. But for you, Seventh Heaven, and I'm gonna talk about the viewer perspective for a second. I watched Seventh Heaven, and it was something I look forward to watching every single week with my mom, my grandma. It was something like I think back to those days having my all my grandparents passed away, and I'm like, oh my god, even if we weren't together, we'd all watch Seventh Heaven and talk about it, and it was such a wholesome show. And it's something that I think even when you bring it up now and people watch it, it is so wholesome. But behind the scenes, there were things happening that the casting even realized that happened and really came out, I would say, so long past the actual show having its limelight and having an imprint in our minds of what it represented, that at least to me, with one of the main characters, the father on the show, who had been accused and like all this different stuff of um molest child rape, let's just say that word. To me it didn't even sink in, because for me I looked at it and I said, it, I didn't even connect the dots at first, and said, until people were going, well, that's the father from Seventh Heaven. I was like, Seventh Heaven will always be Seventh Heaven to me. And yes, that is very bad. No one's saying it's not. But I didn't connect it the same way that people are connecting, at least, what's happening with Nickelodeon and the outburst that has and all that. So for you, what was it like having your experience on set years later, this coming out, and then what was it like, kind of, it seemed, and again tell me if I'm wrong, it was on the heels of what had come out about Nickelodeon and that environment. So was there extra pressure to kind of get you guys to say things or talk about those experiences?
In my opinion, you're absolutely correct. Seventh Heaven was a very special show. 11 seasons. I knew right away that they had something extremely special going on. And I knew that because the network WB, which became the CW, would almost every other weekend they'd send me to a different city in the United States to promote for the network in Seventh Heaven. And I'm talking thousands of people would tell you how much they appreciate you and that show, or you being a part of that show, and how special it was and how much it meant to them. And there were very few shows on like that, and still to this day, very few that are on like that are, teaching good family values and lessons in life. And but that was your show, and it should always be your show no matter what, in my opinion. But the reality is, you don't really know these actors, who they really are and what they're doing. And let's be honest, child predators exist in every single industry and come in every walk of life. Uh, I always say, come in every size, shape, color, political affiliation, religious affiliation, you name it. No matter what anybody says, those are facts. And the person we're talking about, everybody looked up to, and I can only speak with my experience with him. He was so kind and generous and went out of his way to help me. Like I said, I was green. I needed the help. And he would make sure I was as comfortable as you can get. And when I became a series regular, every single day, he would give me pointers and teach me things. And my brother and I both loved him. Everybody that I ever come across that was part of the WB network, which became the CW network, or was part of Seventh Heaven, adored this man. We had no idea what he had done in his past. We just knew how he treated us. And that is the reality with a child predator. You just don't know. And there was a part of that that I forgot
Oh,
what you said at the end.
it was, do you feel like there was added pressure after everything came out about what was
Yes,
happening on Nickelodeon?
because I don't like to jump to conclusions. I want to see the evidence. I want to see the facts. I'm not going to listen to, you know, we're emotional, irrational humans. It's hard for us to not just jump on something right away that you hear in the media or whatever. Most of us that knew him and spent time with him did not believe that was true at the beginning. And I just remember sitting back going, okay, you got to try and think rationally about this, wait till the evidence come out. And when the media got a hold of it and they were just bombarding each and every one of us that were part of that show and worked with him, it freaked me the heck out. I mean, I didn't really, I mean, I don't want to sound like a complete wuss, but it caused me a little bit of trauma back then that I didn't realize I was going through until later because I just didn't want to believe it because the way he treated everybody that I knew that on the show, and he was an awesome person. But then slowly and slowly, more evidence came out, and I refused to do any kind of interviews at the beginning for a long time and didn't want to talk about it. And still, some of the people that spent 11 years with him, they don't even want to think about it. They want to pretend it happens. Everybody deals with trauma differently, and not that our trauma is anything compared to what his victims are, the young girls that he admitted to exposing himself to or whatever. So yeah, that was totally freaked me out. Didn't know what to do, but I'm at a point in time where it should, in my opinion, it should be talked about so we can learn from this to prevent it from happening. That's just
Mhm.
my opinion.
And I could only imagine that it, having it come out, because I'm a very fact based, give me the data, let's like look at this whole picture, kind of person. Like data can't lie. Information and like it's in black and white cannot lie. I mean, I guess some people could forge things, so I'm not going to say every there
Well,
are
yeah,
there are people out there. But to me, the data doesn't lie. So show me the proof. And if you got proof, then like, okay, let's have a discussion. But for you, as so many people were coming out wanting to bring this up, wanting to get, I'm assuming the clickbait moments, because people can be like that. What was it like for you mentally to go, okay, I have to like let me rephrase it this way. Was there a level of when people were reaching out going, okay, are they going to try to blindside me? Or are they going to like really talk about what they want to talk about? And or are they being transparent when they reach out in what they want to talk about, if it's even that topic?
yeah, absolutely. Everything you just said hits home because you don't know what the media is going to spin this into. and and look, the victims need to speak and get this out there 100% for sure, but you don't know what the media is going to do when they interview like an actor that was on the show with me. You don't know how they're going to spin it, turn it. This, it's a business. Everyone's in this for a reason. Sure, it's passion for most people to do it, but it's also, there's a lot of shady people in every industry out there, so you don't know what they're going to do. So yeah, I was totally against speaking about it for a long, long time until I had the facts, until I heard him numerous times admit to what he did, and now I'm totally fine with it. But if I think it's going to affect the victims in a bad way by hearing what's you and I are talking about, I won't do it. That's just me.
Mhm. And it also shows a level of compassion and respect for the victims and their experiences, because it shows in the way you're even talking about now is like, let their truth be their truth and let my experience, they could be two different entities and both be true. And I think that's the part where sometimes when things come out, it's like, how do you combine both? Because there must have been this massive overlap. In reality, there doesn't have to be. And two separate things could be very true. But to your point, you don't, and I love this about you, you don't want to have your truth uh, negatively affect the truth of the victims.
Correct. Absolutely.
So I want to go into something else now. So you've played everything from sitcom guest stars to series leads in romantic and thriller films. You've kind of touched it all. But what roles surprised you the most emotionally once the camera stops rolling?
Oh, oh man. Uh, so you're familiar with the faith-based side of the industry.
Mhm.
So I was not. I didn't know the faith-based industry part of the industry existed. I don't know if it's I just never watched anything like that, but I never even saw a Hallmark Christmas movie until I did my first one. I'm Not Ready for Christmas with Alicia Witt, who I adore. Uh, but years after Seventh Heaven ended, I I've been hired numerous times. It was a blessing for me to be part of Seventh Heaven. I adored every second of being part of that show, and to this day have nothing but good memories. And it was just awesome. But I didn't know you've heard of typecasting, whatever, right? So I don't know if I was or what. I just know for sure that people wanted to hire me because they thought that I was exactly like my character on Seventh Heaven, Officer Kevin Kinkirk. But I did do a faith-based movie years after the show, and I was at first kind of afraid to do it. And but and by the way, my mom's as hardcore Catholic as one can get. She went to Catholic school through her master's degree. So I ended up doing it because the director got a hold of me and we kind of ended up building a great relationship like you and I do. And this gentleman, Ricky Borba, and he talked me into doing this movie and I had an absolute blast. But in the movie, my mother passes away and I had never like emotionally had a scene affect me like what I did in that movie. And I'm usually can have no problem going in and out of so-called character, but she was such a nice woman and had a lot of qualities that reminded me of my mother that after it was over with, starting from right after that evening, after we were done shooting for the day, it affected me for a long, long time. Uh, and I hear about actors having trouble breaking free of characters before. I never ever had that kind of experience until then. And it was just it was weird. It just really was weird. But again, I had an absolute blast doing the movie and loved every part of it.
That being said, did it definitely tugged at you differently, and it's what it sounds like is that specific scene, having to get into that mindset. Did it after that scene, like you said, the next day, the days after, or even after the film wrapped, did it change your mentality on how you approached things, how you maybe approach relationships or communication or anything at all?
Yeah. It like I said earlier, it for me to end up in this industry was a blessing because it helped me come out of my shell. It helped me be more comfortable. It helped me be able to speak in public. Like I remember being in college and having to take a speech class. And when I first had to get up in front of the class, and we're talking only like 30, 35 people max, my body just shut down, sweat perspiring, just stuttering, couldn't talk. So jumping into this business has helped me tremendously in so many ways. But oh god, I just lost my train of thought. I'm only human, people. What was I saying? Help me, Olivia.
Okay, so about how that role and that moment affected you outside in your relationships, and you were
Right.
talking about, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I was never, and I'm still not great at it, but communicating and being able to communicate is a huge, huge positive for anyone, in my opinion. So the more you can do it, the better you are. And I still would say I suck at it compared to most, but I'm a heck of a lot better than I used to be. But being able to communicate with everybody from, whether it's the director, producer, all the actors you work with, even the craft services, is a must in my opinion, and it will help in every situation possible. Just my thoughts.
So I dive into that a little deeper because I agree. Communication is key. Being able to read body language or know someone's inflection, right? Because some people have different inflections to certain words or how they speak. And sometimes I might take it one way. In reality, that's not how they're trying to be at all. So for you, as you grew in the industry, as you grew as an individual, how did you try to, and what tools or mindset did you use to continuously work on your communication skills? Because I also think it's something that it's not like, hey, okay, check a box. I did it. I never have to work on this again. I think it's something we all have to continuously work on.
Yeah, and what I've always been told that I was a good listener, and listening before speaking is a huge part of being a good communicator, in my opinion. So I'd always been good at the listening part, and then for several decades I've been working on the communicating part. But if you can listen as an actor first, I think it will help you to a level that I could never comprehend until I got into this industry and had been in it for a while.
And I even think listening in general is such an important skill, just like communication, to hone. And when you could go into a conversation, even like, let's be honest, I mean, I got red hair. There are times I come in and I'm like, no, like, this is my way, this is how I feel about it, you're gonna hear me.
Love it.
Like, I show up. And my family and my friends and even my boyfriend sometimes they're like, Olivia, you're getting really passionate about this. And I'm like, it's the right thing. We are doing like I remember I'll quick story. Over summer, my parents came to visit. Okay. And we were having a great time. We went out to dinner after like going to like one of the waterways here and like all this fun stuff during the day. And we had our dog with us, and based on like timing and everything, there was like one bar restaurant we could really go to because we also had the dog, that we all wanted to like we'd all have something on the menu. Okay. And like people who become like family to us, there's this one family here. He the husband's also in the Coast Guard, is also a chief. We built like this our own little family here. So they were like, "Oh, we want to meet you guys, like tell us where you guys are." Well, we get to this restaurant and it's 7:15 and they close at 8 o'clock. Okay, so think about that. And we're about to be a party of like 10. And we have age ranges. My dad's 70, and like to a 5-year-old kid and a dog. Like there's so many things going on. We have a great time. We get fed. Obviously, there was us and one other like family, like all adults, that had been on a cruise ship. So they like as well, they allowed us to stay there a little bit later as they were cleaning up. So we went like 8:15. So we all walk out, right? This massive group, and it's like in the main street of Juneau. So we're hanging out for a while. We get in the car, and it's like at this point like 9:30 at night. And in Juneau in the summer, because this is July, it's still pure sun at 9:30 at night. And my dad goes to get his sunglasses. And we were sitting inside, so he like just thought because it wasn't in his visual on the table that like, oh, I left them in the car. Get in the car, and um no, like not there. And immediately I'm like, okay, well, the crew had to clean up. Maybe I could get a hold. No one picks up the phone. I'm like, okay, well, they open at 11 a.m. So I will call exactly at 11 a.m., clothes that you would think they put them to the side. Okay, no problem. Called 11 and, talk to them, and they kind of give me some BS. And they're like, well, look for him. And I'm like, wait. I was there at close. And your doors literally just opened. Like, it was like me waiting on the phone for Disney to open. Everyone who tries to buy park or like dinner reservations at Disney, you're waiting for the exact moment you can like hit the button.
Yeah.
Um, and so like I'm like, wait, this doesn't make sense. So me being me, and I'm like, no, this does not make sense. I was like, okay, well, we're in downtown. Like, I let like an hour go by, and we were like on our way to downtown to like do something, I forget. And I was like, okay, well, we'll be here for a little bit. Hey, you guys go to where I think we were going to eat. I was like, hey, you guys go, um, get the table for lunch. I'm gonna go walk down to the restaurant. So I walk in and I'm like, hey, so I called an hour ago. You said you'd call me right back. These glasses. And the woman was kind of rude. And John was like, take a deep breath. And I'm like, give me the manager. Like, obviously, yeah. I'm like, no, like, don't talk to me. Like the way she came off of like not trying to help aggravated me even more. And I was professional, but I was like, come on, seriously? So like she was like, okay, give me your number. Like I don't see him back here. I'll call you in like an hour. Okay. So an hour goes by. We were leaving downtown. And I was like, I'm stopping in the restaurant again. So now I go in again. And I'm like,
Oh,
immediately, I'm like, I want to talk to your manager. Like I'm not like I want to talk. This has been going on. And this time John walked in with me. And we're talking, and John, being military, picks up every camera in the place because
nice.
military folks tend to have their head on the swivel for
Oh
protection all
yeah.
the time. And so at this point, he's and like he had the like kind of coming to Jesus moment with me beforehand of like this is a big tourist spot. Someone probably stole them. Like in all actuality, this is probably what happened. And I was like, no, this not like that's unethical. I'm a business owner. You don't like that's not the kind of staff you should have. And like
Right.
it's less than 24 hours. Like what? And so we go back in. Now John's with me and we're talking to the guy. And the guy was like, listen, I'm gonna call my GM. Like we definitely have them. And John goes, well, there's cameras, and there's a camera right pointing down to where we were sitting. So let's pull up the camera. And so he's like, okay, we'll do that. We'll text you, right? I'm like, okay. So we leave there, and John's like, they're never contacting you. Like, someone stole them, and you need to realize this. And I'm like, now I'm like, kind of getting agitated with him because I'm like, listen, my dad got those for Father's Day. I'm finding these, and like if not, like they are paying for new ones. This is like such a standard here, and it's just ethically the right thing to do. So
Yeah.
so later in the day, the general manager texts me. This is like 5 hours later, same day. He's like, hey, we couldn't find the black sunglasses, whatever. And I said, okay, can I be sent the camera footage?
Yep.
I said, literally, the only thing that could have happened is someone on your team stole the glasses. So, like, who on your team stole the glasses? Because we'll write a report up. What is it? Now, mind you, these aren't like $300 glasses, and everyone tried to remind me of that. But I was like, it is the principle of the matter at this point.
Sure.
Um, and so, literally, no joke, 15 minutes later, I get a text back. We found the glasses. You could come pick them up.
No way. That's
Uh-huh.
awesome.
And I was
Well
like,
done.
I like run outside. John was outside with my dad and my mom playing in like outside with the dog. And I was like, I got the glasses. We can roll up tonight and pick them up. And they're like, wait, what? Like everyone was on the same conclusion that I was just not listening to what was being told at me, and I was getting like, and I wasn't listening to anyone, but I was like, listen, we're gonna make something happen. I don't know what it's gonna be, but it's gonna come out of this. And so that's a very outlier story, but it made me think of it when you talk about like the power of listening, because in those moments I felt like the restaurant wasn't listening to me, but also like they didn't want to listen to me. So they were like, okay, well, probably a tourist, probably going to get on a cruise and it'll, they'll be gone.
Yep.
And I also was not listening to John. He was like, just give it up. Just give it up.
You tried, John.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing I didn't give up. I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
granted, I was willing to be like, I'm going to tell everyone in Juneau not to actually go to this restaurant if they're a local. Because like their staff is stealing stuff. So like I was like planning all like it out all in my head. But it shows that sometimes you need to listen to be able to then be open to actually communicating, whether it's about a problem, whether it's about perspectives. I don't like bringing politics into anything, but I feel like even in the world we are politically, you need to be open to understanding different perspectives and like actually hold a conversation about whatever it is and listening.
Agreed.
But on that note, most people don't know what it takes to stay visible and to stay grounded in an industry that tests both of those things. What mindset has protected your peace while still letting your career evolve?
Well, my dear theatrical manager, Selena, is the one who keeps me grounded. She just heard that. No, I mean, everybody has a different personality. Mine just happens to be I'm very, very chill. And I like making people comfortable. And I love making people laugh. And I love laughing myself. So if people can make me laugh, and that's even better. Uh, but yeah, I'm not good at playing the game. Like my brother Jeff is excellent at playing the game. And it's very difficult for me to do those things. But I just try and be myself, even though that's ridiculous because I am an actor. But I just try and be who I am and hope that that works. And I don't like, going out of my way to be uncomfortable or make other people uncomfortable. Or I don't know. Is it called BSing? I don't know. Maybe I'm just not an excellent BSer all the time. And I'm a terrible business person. So to sell myself, I am the worst. I'd be like, nah, you know what? I would get it if they hired that person before they hired me, 100%.
I understand that because for a very long time, and it's something I've consciously very much worked on this past year. I looked at like I always said, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not here to sell you. I can't sell you. Um, this and that. And someone then asked me, what's your mindset? Like, what is getting in your way? Especially, like, I do have a TED talk out there that is about defeating your biggest enemy, you. Now, we could all get in our own ways during moments of opportunity or struggle. So they were like, is it you not working on it? Do you not know how to work on it? Like, what is actually getting in your way? And then I was like, great way to put it. Now I'm going to really focus in on that and work on it consciously and like also tools subconsciously. Like, is there positive things I could say about it during the day that will change my mindset over time? Um, but I know there's so many more questions I have for you, and we really don't have time. But I want to ask like at least two more questions. Acting aside, what's something about you that fans never end up asking you that you wish they knew?
Ooh, oh, well, I can tell one story that Selena will kill me for probably telling, and that many, many moons ago when Instagram first came out and I wanted no part of social media, me being me and just being myself, I always was doing something goofy with my ass cheeks hanging out, right? So people, if people, they don't know you, they either think you're a mentally ill creep or whatever, but they don't realize that it's because one of my mom's best friends, when my brother and I were kids, Gloria, Italian woman with a decent sized booty, mooned us. And I thought it was the funniest thing ever. So since then, and this is documented on old school camera pics and camcorders of me always showing my ass. So that is something that most people probably don't know. And it's probably not what you wanted me to tell, but there it is. I'm not a complete freak, people. I'm just Gloria did that to me. My mom's best friend growing up. It's not something I came up with on my own, all right? And now I'm getting too old because my ace, I call it, is just not quite what it used to be. More lunges, George.
Listen, those ab workouts, the squats,
Yeah.
help the ass and help the abs. The two ways there. and I know you love hiking. Hiking helps.
Oh, absolutely. I love to hike any chance I get. Most people that live in Los Angeles, because I'm in Los Angeles, grew up in Colorado in the mountains, but living in Los Angeles for a long time, I would try and find all the places that reminded me of where I grew up in the mountains of Colorado. And Angeles National Forest is not even an hour away. Most people that live in this city have no idea what Angeles National Forest is, but it's beautiful. You can take this highway called the 2 from La Cañada Flint Ridge to Wrightwood, California, through Angeles National Forest. And that's my go to happy place to get out of the city. And I go hiking. I went just over the weekend on Saturday all day long with my dog Shelby and didn't see anybody, just the two of us hiking in the middle of nowhere, which can be scary if you're not used to it.
Oh, and that's something for me, like I've gotten comfortable doing in here in Alaska because growing up in New Jersey, and I was born in Arkansas, so going there till I was 4 years old and then going to the Northeast, like my boyfriend jokes because he grew up in Florida and like went fishing all the time and went on trails even though there's not mountains. He's very outdoorsy, and I'm like, okay, I don't do that. Like I've very much gotten into fishing. Like I will grab that fish with both my hands. Um, Pictures literally half my body.
Wow.
And it's crazy, and I'm holding it, and I'm like, yeah. Um, but hiking took me a long time, like almost a full year of us being here in Alaska to get comfortable. And I tell everyone, this is not just because I am lazy or don't want to go see pretty things. There's a thing called bears, okay? And weighing 100 pounds and being 5 foot, even a black bear, to someone who did not grow up hiking, is very scary. And knowing you are in their environment, like they want you, they're gonna get you. Okay?
We're gonna get you.
They're gonna get you. So like here in Juneau, we don't have any brown bears, knock on wood. And like so I don't gotta deal with that level because they will kill for fun. Black bears don't really bother you. But our first summer here would it, we went on a hike. We have an amazing trail right next to our house. Like literally the lot next to our house is a trailhead. So we're very lucky. And I we got here and we went up in the morning. I not eaten. I was told the hike was gonna be like 2 miles. No, it was not. It wasn't even And I was thinking 2 miles round trip. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I go to Disney and I walk 15 miles a day. I could do 2 miles before breakfast. No. Okay. And maps lied. It was not 2 miles. It's two, the trail where we wanted to go, from the trailhead, which is not the bottom, it's where the trailhead starts. So there's about almost, it's like 3/4 of a mile to the top where like the trail starts, which is a 2 and 1/4 mile incline up the mountain. So like we're walking on these planks and stuff, and I was getting hangry. So, and I'm like, bears, bears, bears. This bear is gonna pop out. It's there. So I was not good. Now I'm like, okay, yeah, let's go. Like I've gotten more comfortable. But hiking is a beautiful thing, and it's one of those things where like it doesn't need to be, from bottom to all the way top. Like do little sprints of it. Go. And like even on trails here, there's not that many people that ever go on them. Like,
I'll
yeah,
believe it.
there'll be trails and we'll see people depending on weather and this and that. But like you want some alone time, you want some peace, you want meditate, go on hikes. I'll give people credit. It's definitely a workout because you got that inward climb and that heat. Like no matter what,
Yeah.
there's heat.
Yeah, we're getting a workout. It grounds us, and you're in nature. We're part of nature out there. And especially if you go somewhere where there's no cell service, you don't have to worry about that. And you just check out and enjoy the beautiful planet where we live on that we're fortunate enough to have still for at least a little while longer.
Yeah, I mean, we've done hikes where you could view like what we tried. Got to a point where we're like, okay, we're not going to get this view we thought we were because nature and us humans have ruined parts of nature and climate change over years. And if you want proof that like environmental changes do happen, come to Juneau, Alaska, where they have markers of like years and the difference of like how much the glacier has actually melted, which is shocking to see how much glacier can like go away in 12 years. But anyway, um, you can get really cool views too and experiences you never thought you can actually see or be a part of. Just also, my words of wisdom in this is like, know your limits. Like, if you're scared of sharp, like, really thin walkways on hikes, don't do hikes that have really thin walkways. If especially if you're a beginner, because like that was something I had to get used to, like the slipperiness and like how some trails are built here freaked me out a little bit. I got over it, but yes. Okay, so I know we're over time. I'm gonna ask my last question, and then I promise we'll wrap up. If your name showed up in credits 20 years from now, what kind of story would you want it to be attached to, and what would you want people to feel when they saw it?
You mean uh, telling a story about me or
I
me?
want you to take this any way you want to take this right now.
Well, 20 years from now, I want people to say, hey, remember that great, somewhat funny guy who was down to earth and would make everybody around him comfortable, and he always had a good time with it. That guy George, who did a bunch of Hallmark Christmas movies and was on Seventh Heaven. Remember him? He was pretty cool, huh? It was a good time hanging out with that guy. Oh no.
Well,
Yes, I'm a
think.
nerd.
Listen, we're all nerds inside. And also, I'm gonna say this because my mom, I know I could hear my mama in me saying this right now. My mom loves Hallmark movies. Okay, so she's probably watched all of yours multiple times because Hallmark movies are playing like all year round. And the joke my dad has is like, especially the Christmas ones, once they start, they all have a general same similar theme. And he's like, I could tell you what happens. Also, this same movie has played in our house 10, 20, 30 times already in the past 4 years. So like, and it's like, we love it. I actually got her a blanket that says, "This is my Hallmark Christmas channel movie blanket." And it has different things from the classic Hallmark movies. But
Love it.
thank you, George, for all of your insight today.
Thank you for having me, and tell your mom I'm going to do my best to come out of retirement and do another Hallmark Christmas movie, any kind of Christmas movie, but with Beverly Mitchell. When I just saw her, because you made me do the podcast, I told her I would come out of retirement, but only if we can do one together.
Oh my God. That would be so exciting because, I feel like when co-stars, and especially your guys' dynamic on that show, if you can, I feel like that movie would be such a hit, even if the script sucked, because everyone would be tuning in to be like, oh my God, it's them on TV again, as, like playing together. So I feel like it would be a blockbuster hit, even though I also know you would never pick up a script you didn't like, but I know it would be successful regardless. And I think that should happen. So if my voice has any meaning to any decision anyone's making, I say it should happen. And a few of our key takeaways from today's amazing conversation, something that has been over a year in the making, friendship and talking about this podcast that we're doing right now, is don't be afraid to ask for support. This is something that George talked about in different experiences he had, but I think really shined through in the story he told about when he was green on Seventh Heaven and said, okay, I'm going into the trailer with the children actors and getting these classes and honing my skill and accepting tips from different actors who walked on and listening and really honing this craft, because as you've seen, he's become very successful in what he does. And if it isn't for being open to those things, he might have not had the same experiences and all of that, as well as also live your truth, and I say this because in everything George has talked about today, he goes back to what his truth is, right? His love for hiking, and that is something he's passionate about. His how he viewed the relationship with his brother. I know he's thinking about work and working with his brother, or how he looked at the situation that was happening with former castmates on Seventh Heaven. And a really big piece of that I want to reiterate as well is that two truths can be true at the same time. And that just because you have your truth, and George demonstrated this, does not mean someone else's truth is not true. I'm using the word true a lot in this sentence.
True that.
But I mean, it is true. Um, because and letting other people's voices be heard in those times and saying, okay, when is it my time to speak and when do I need to listen? Which also goes into my third thing, which I'm also going to challenge everyone to do this week. Listen before you speak. Hone that skill. That is a part of skills in communication, but hone listening, being open to the words, the body language someone is giving you before just being ready to respond and like pounce on a response and thinking about like, oh, this is how I'm going to respond. Listen before speaking. This was a great episode with our top-notch guest, actor George Stults. Thank you for listening and have a successful day.